Good evening, everyone. Warm greetings from Satyabama Institute of Science and Technology, Chennai. Well, my name is Dr. Arun Jodi. I'm one of the coordinators of Satyabama IAI student branch. Hope everyone is safe and well at home. On behalf of the organizing committee, I take the privilege in welcoming you all to the live webinar on getting started with artificial intelligence and machine learning, organized by Satyabama IAE student branch in association with the Institution of Engineers, India. I also welcome Mr. Pavan Yanaraj from Lama Labs, IIT Madras Research Park, who is going to handle the session. We welcome you, sir. It is indeed a unique pleasure and privilege for us to express our sincere gratitude to our founder, Chancellor Sir, Colonel Dr. J.P.S. Sir, who always showers us divine blessings. We take this opportunity to express our deepest gratitude and honest thanks to our Chancellor Ma'am, Dr. Marie Zena Johnson, and our President Sir, Dr. Marie Johnson, and our Vice President Ma'am, Ms. Maria Bernadette Johnson, for their continuous support and high endeavors in motivating us to organize these kind of online webinars for the students community. And today we have Mr. Pavan Yanaraj. I take the privilege in introducing him. Mr. Pavan Yanaraj is currently working as a team lead for engineering and operations at Lemma Labs, IIT Madras Research Park since 2015. Mr. Pavan is an educational enthusiast with 7+ years of experience in teaching robotics, Internet of Things, and machine learning to around 3,500 students and working professionals. His specializations include machine learning, embedded systems, data science, robotics, and Internet of Things, project assistance, and mentoring. He is also specialized in making technology fun and the simple way to learn. He leads the content development and training team at Lemma Labs. He has helped design the machine learning curriculum to accommodate all enthusiastic learners, irrespective of their educational background and experience, to get the necessary skills to pursue a career in machine learning. And the testimony, quite a few of his students have done their master's MS in top institutions in US and Germany and are working in top MNCs and emerging technology startups. We are very happy to have you here, sir. The session is all yours. It's time for you to take off. Over to you, Mr. Pavan.
Thank you, ma'am, for that kind introduction. Uh, what I'll do is I'll just share my screen
Yes,
and
sir. Yeah.
yeah. Uh, Firstly, thank you for that great introduction. And I understand people after your college working hours or in the evening. Thank you for coming here and sitting to attend the session. I'll do my best to ensure that you are excited about learning. And yeah, looks like just give me a second. Having some issue. Yeah. Okay, so I'll do my best to keep the next 1.5 hours as engaging as possible. So what I've done is I've divided the entire session into 3 parts, and in the next 1.5 hours, as the session is about getting started into AI and ML, I would like to ask a question to everyone, right? I'd like to ask a question to everyone and understand where do you stand in this journey? Which department participants are there in the call here? What are the department students that are there? What are the different departments that are represented in this call? All the participants, if you can please use the chat to reply and engage and ask questions, it would be great. As the more you ask questions, the more you interact, the better the session is going to be. So please use this time to use the chat to communicate. So there is mechatronics, there is computer science, any other departments? ECE, okay. There is ECE. So mechatronics, computer science, ECE, okay. Okay, so these are the 3 departments. Are there any other department? Mechanical, electrical, any other departments apart from ECE, ECE, mechatronics? Okay. So looks like there are three different departments, right? And how many of you already start working on AI? Some projects or something related to AI? How many of you already started working? Anyone? Yes. If there yes, please tell. I've done something on ML. I'm not going to ask you some questions. Okay, so there is one person, Veda, has worked something on ML. Okay, what about the others? If you're if you find it a little if you're not comfortable talking in the main chat, you can even privately message me like a lot of other people are doing. So there is one person, Veda, who's worked on ML problems. The others, anyone else who worked on this? Any kind of ML, any small ML algorithm, you have done some learning on it. If anything that you have done earlier on. Okay, so I would like to. I'm just launching a poll, and I would like to understand what is your intention of joining this session, right? That will help me understand. That will help me uh, ensure that your doubts are cleared and I'm able to cover relevant topics. So I've launched a poll just to understand where I mean your relationship with us. What is your expectation of the program? And if you can please use the poll, please take part in the poll. There is a poll that is alive. Please you take part in the poll. It is just for us to understand your expectations out of this session. Okay, so there are 15% of people have done it. The others, please quickly take part in the poll so I'll be able to understand uh, your intentions. Okay, there is a person who has already attended our programs. Great. So there are a couple of people who have already attended our programs. So you will be able to answer some questions that I've asked in the session. Okay. Looks like around, looks like everyone are actually very curious about AI and ML would like to join, who would like to know more about it. Okay. Okay. So, okay, one thing that's very clear is around 90% of people have attended, are interested in looking, very interested in looking at ML, AI, and what is it. And there are also around 70% of people who have never attended any ML course before. Okay, and majority of you, none of you in the class have here attended our sessions. Okay, so now that I've got a brief background about what you are, I mean, your experience in learning, what we'll do is we have divided the entire session into three parts. The first part is I'm going to talk about what is AI, what is ML. In 1.5 hours, it's very difficult to go more in depth, but then I'll keep the concepts as simple as possible. As ma'am was pointing out, I specialize in making things as simple. So all these big complicated things, I'll try to make it as simple as possible, as engaging as possible. And we will talk about what are the different types of AI and ML problems. And we'll also dive deep into one small math concept of model and what is the objective, right? If time permits, we'll look at that, which is the backbone of any ML problem. So we'll keep all the definitions that I'm going to talk to you are not going to be textbook definitions. I'll keep it as simple as possible. The next C that I'll be covering in the class is a code demonstration. So I have a couple of interesting demos upfront, wherein one demo, there are a couple of demos, and will anyways go through the code of that, and we'll look at that. Finally, for all those people who are excited after the session, who are excited about looking to learn further into looking for a course or looking for a platform where you can get started into your journey in learning ML, then we will take up questions in that regard also. Okay, so this is the brief agenda of the entire session. We'll dive into the first question. So before we start, we'll dive into the first question, and I will ask everyone to answer this question in the chat. There are 25 participants in the 24 participants in the session. So I would like all the 24 participants to answer this question in the chat. Everyone can agree that humans are intelligent, right? Humans are intelligent. Now, what makes human beings intelligent? What makes you and I as an intelligent species? You can use the chat. What makes human beings intelligent? You can use the chat. to tell what makes human beings intelligent. So Roshan is telling knowledge, Veda is telling differentiation, okay, ability to make decision. Raghav, great, ability to make decision. Amir Reddy is telling thinking process, right? Great. Mohammed is telling reading books makes human intelligent. Okay, interesting. Getting a lot of interesting answers. But one thing, I think on dot, majority of when you think about what makes human intelligence, it's pretty much a decision making system, right? The ability or our thinking process, our ability to make decisions, our ability to comprehend or understand different situations around, differentiate different topics, and ability to make decisions is what makes a human being intelligent, right? So let me put just 3 pointers, and let's see if all of us agree that these are the 3 things that makes human beings intelligent. The three things that I can tell is, given any particular situation, human beings have the ability to apply some form of a logic, some logical reasoning, and using that logic, you are able to evaluate different options that are there in that situation, and you can make a decision on your own, right? Independent thinking is something that makes a human being intelligent. Everyone can agree with it, right? Given any particular situation, if you agree, you can use the chat to tell me. Given any situation, the human beings have the ability to apply some form of a logic, evaluate different options, and then take a decision on our own, right? That is what makes human beings intelligent. Now, if we apply the same thing to machines, then it becomes an artificial intelligence system. So any machine that we take around, if we give the three ability, that is the ability to apply some logic given a situation, evaluate different options using that logic, and make a decision on its own, then the machine becomes an artificial intelligence system. Okay. Now I've given. Now there are a lot of textbook complicated definitions for it. If you go to AI and ML in all these computer science books abroad in all the masters and all. But I've kept it as simple as possible that everyone of us can relate, right? Everyone can agree that this is something that happens. Now, if we have to understand an AI system more in detail, then we need to understand. We need to take one small example, and then we will dive deeper into the different. So I'm going to talk an example about a chess game. Okay, so using this chess game, we're going to understand what makes an AI system intelligent. Okay, so I have a question for you. How many of you play chess? I would like to just understand this from the people in the class. So I've just launched a quick poll, and you can just take this poll, and I want to know how many of you play chess. How many percentage of you play chess? How many of you play chess? Okay, there are a lot of experts in this field. There are a lot of experts here in the class who can play chess. Amazing. Oh, there is one expert, okay. And there are a lot of people who can play a little, who know basic rules in the game. There are around 60% of people who took part in the poll. The remaining 40%, can you quickly tell if you know to play chess or not? And if you know to play chess, you can tell that you know. Otherwise, you can tell you do not know. Okay, Riya Singh knows to play, Preeti knows to play, Raghav knows to play. Great. So all these people who know to play chess, when you play chess game, let's say you're playing chess game against me, right? And we are talking about an AI system. So we'll have to understand how we play chess. So let's say you play chess game against me. I'm not a very great player, but let's say you play chess against me. Now, what is your main objective when you play chess? What is your main objective when you play chess? What is the main goal when you play chess? You can use the chat to tell me. Use the chat. When you play chess against me, what is your main objective when you play chess? Okay, Veda is telling checkmate. I want to keep check. The main objective for me is to make checkmate. What about the others? What you can use the chat to tell. Riya is again telling checkmate. Raghav is telling I want to make checkmate with least loss. Okay, great. What about the others? So all these people who are playing chess, all these people who are experts in chess or people who play chess will always use this technical term checkmate, right? So for all those people who are not playing chess, I'll keep it very simple. For all those people who don't play chess, can we all agree that it is just to win the game, right? The objective when you play chess is to win the game. So we're going to keep that as a very simple objective. It is to win the game. So if you take an AI system, then the first thing that you need to do is define the objective very clearly. Like for example, in this case, we took an AI system called chess, and we told the objective is to win the game. So that has to be very, very clearly defined. The first thing when you design an AI problem. Okay. The next part is, the next thing is we need to know how the decisions are being made. Now to understand how the decisions are being made, that is ability to apply logic, evaluate different options, and take a decision on our own. So ability to do all these things, we'll have to understand. If we need to understand that from an AI system, then we need to understand how do we play chess. If we need to understand how this ability to apply some logic, evaluate different options, and make a decision on our own happens in an AI system, then we need to understand how we play chess. Okay. Now, in order to understand that, I have a question for you. In the beginning of the game, in the beginning of the chess game, let's say you are having white coins, and in the beginning of the game, how many possible moves are there in the chess game? In the beginning of the game, how many possible moves are there in the chess game? Let me make it easier for you, for all the people who forgot about the chessboard. How many pawns are there in the chess game? How many pawns are there in the chess game? How many pawns are there in the chess game? You can use a chat. You can use a chat to tell me how many pawns are there in the chess game. Okay. Preeti is giving me an answer. What about the others? What about the others? How many pawns are there in the chess game? If you feel a little difficult to answer in public, you can use a private chat to tell me. Okay, so a lot of people are telling me the answer. There are 8 pawns in the chessboard. Fantastic. There are 8 pawns in the chessboard. Great. Now, in the beginning of the game, each pawn can move either 1 step or 2 steps, right? So how many possible moves are there for totally now? 8 pawns. Each pawn can move either 1 step or 2 steps. So how many possible moves can be there? There are 16 possible moves in the beginning of the game, right? There are 16 possible moves in the beginning of the game. Fantastic. Now, what else can move in the beginning? What else can move? For pawns, there are 16 possible moves. What else can move in the beginning of the chess game? What else can move in the beginning of the chess game? Guys, come on, please use the chat to answer. Okay, so horse can move in the beginning of the chess game. Horse can move in the beginning of the chess game. Fantastic. There are a lot of people who are privately messaging me. So a horse can move in the beginning of the chess game. Fantastic. How many possible moves are there for horses in the beginning of the game? Each horse can move towards the left or right. Right? There are two possible moves for one horse. Totally, there are 2 horses. So totally, for horses there are 4 possible moves. For pawns there are 16 possible moves. So totally, in the beginning of the game, how many possible moves are there in the chess game? There are 20 possible moves in the beginning of the game. Right? There are 20 possible moves in the beginning of the game. Fantastic. Now, as the game progresses, the number of moves increases exponentially. There are a lot of possible moves in the chess game. To just give you an idea, there are around 140 million possible moves in the beginning of the game. There are 140 million possible moves in the beginning of the game. Now, if we tell 140 million possible moves in the beginning of the game, if you are developing chess, if you are developing a chess game, is it wise to write 140 million possible if conditions? Can we write 140 million if conditions, and will that be an intelligent way to write the program? If you're developing chess game, would it be a very nice way to, if will be correct to write 140 million possible if statements? Obviously no, right? It's crazy, right? We cannot write 140 million possible moves, right? It's a ocean of combinations that are there, so it's not possible to write 140 million possible moves. So similarly, in an AI system, if you're developing an AI system, we cannot write 140 million if statements. We cannot write if statements there. So if that is the case, then how can we design a chess game? How can we design an AI system? We cannot write so many if statements. Then how can we design an AI system? Now, in order to understand that, we'll have to understand how we play chess. Now, how do we play chess? Let's say I'm playing chess against you, and let's say I make a move now. How do you make the next move? Let's say we are playing chess. I'm repeating the question. Let's say we are playing chess. Let's say I make a move now. How will you make the next move? what all will it keep in mind when you make the next move? If I make a move, let's say you're making a move next, what all will you keep in mind? How will you make the next move? Right. So it's based. You can Raghav is telling it's basically based either attack or defense strategy. Based on attack or defense strategy, you will make a move. Veda is telling I'll make a move says that I do not lose. Simple. Okay. What about the others? You're playing chess against me. I make a move. How will you make the next move? What all do you take into account when you make the next move? You can use the chat to tell. What all do you take into consideration to make the next move? In order to make it easy for you, can everyone agree that if I make a move, the decision making process in your mind would be, what is the move that I can make now? This is what will be running in your mind, right? What is the move that I can make now? For which, in response, what is the best possible move that Pawan can make, which will in turn take me closer to winning, right? In other words, what you will be doing is you will choose that best move by evaluating different options in that area and choosing the best move that will take you closer to winning the game, right? Either to attack me or in a way to attack me, yes, definitely. So the decision will always be attack or defense, will always be driven by this objective that what is the best move that I can make that will take me closer to winning the game or closer to the objective, right? So that is your decision making process. Any decision that you take, what is the decision that will take me closer to the objective is the entire decision making process, right? So remember, when we are developing chess game or when we are developing an AI system, we cannot write 140 million if statements. It is not possible to write 140 million if statements. Instead, so in other words, we cannot write what exactly the decision to be taken is something that we cannot specify. Right? What is the exact decision to be taken? That is, if statements cannot be specified. But instead, what we can do is we can tell how to make the decision, how the decision making process happens is what we'll have to specify to the AI system. We cannot tell what exactly is the decision making process that has to happen. Okay, so this, remember, as a developer, when you are developing an AI system, what you will be doing is you will not write if statements. Instead, what you will be doing is you will be telling you will just create the decision making process, and then the AI system will automatically make a decision on its own. Okay, so a quick recap: we saw that any system that has the ability to apply some form of a logic, evaluate different options, and take a decision on its own is an artificial intelligence system. And if you are developing an artificial intelligence system, the first thing that you will be doing is you will not be writing if statements and specifying what exactly is the decision to be taken. Instead, you will be telling what is the decision making process. And what will be the decision making process? The decision making process will be such that the decision should take you closer to the objective, right? That is the decision making process. Okay. We'll anyways go dive deeper into this and figure out what happens in the decision making system and all those things a little later. But this is a gist of the entire system. Now, if you have any doubts, you can ask me, and we will be continuing anyways. Now, a lot of times people use these terms AI, ML, AI, ML, AI, ML, right? Everywhere you go, people use these terms interchangeably, right? So, what is ML, right? ML is just a very small part of AI. It's a small branch of AI in which the decision-making process is based on data, right? The decision-making process is based on data. Remember, we're talking that the decision-making process is what we have to figure out. And we are telling in machine learning, the decision-making process is based on data. And currently, majority of the problems that you see are currently ML problems. Okay. Now, when do you tell machine is learning, right? When you're defining a machine learning problem, like how we define in AI, when you're defining a machine learning problem very specifically, well, yes, Ria, that is right. So when you're specifying a machine learning problem, what you need to do is you need to tell the machine is supposed to be learning when the performance of the machine on a particular task improves based on previous data or experience. Now, when you see this definition, it looks very simple, right? Like when do you tell someone is learning? You tell someone is learning when the performance of that person is improving based on the previous experience, right? previous, whatever previous experience was it, is the performance improving based on that, right? That is what, when if the performance is increasing, that means the person is learning. If the performance is not improving, that means the person is not learning, right? So now if you look at this definition, there are three things that are very clearly has to be defined in an ML problem. What is the performance indicator? What is the task? And what is the experience or the data that the machine is learning from? Right? So these are the three important things that has to be defined very clearly when you're defining a machine learning problem. Okay. Now I've just given you a small definition. Now what we will do is I will give you a task. I'm going to give all of you a task, and what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to learn it, and we will understand how the learning process happened, and then we'll apply it to the machine, right? That's what we're going to do. I'm going to give you a task, and then we will understand how the learning process happens. Okay. Now the task that I'm going to give you is identifying someone called Puneet. Okay. The task that I'm going to give you is identifying someone called Puneet. Puneet is a person at one of my friends. He was working with us. So the task is to identify him, and I can guarantee that none of you would have seen him currently. So this is the first time that everyone will be seeing him. So the task is to identify someone called Puneet. Okay. Now, what will be the performance? What can be the performance indicators here? What can be the performance indicators here? If the task is identifying Puneet, what all can be the performance indicators? You can use the chat to tell me what all can be the performance indicators. What can be the performance indicators? You can use the chat to tell me the task is identifying Puneet. What all can be the performance indicators? Right. So the performance indicators can be such that whether you're predicting right or wrong. Right. Very simple. Whether you're predicting rightly or wrong. Whether you're right or wrong. That is a performance indicator. If someone is performing correctly, that means you're learning. And if someone is not performing correctly, that means you're not learning. Right. So that is your performance indicator. Now the data that I'm going to give you is photos of Puneet and photos of non-Puneet. Okay. So what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to learn from this and identify who is Puneet and not. Okay. Are you ready? Right. If you're ready, use the chat to tell me if you're ready. So I'm now going to show you the data, and you're going to learn from the data. Finally, then what we're going to do is we're going to understand how the learning process happens. Right. So if you're ready, please tell yes. Okay. There are 2 people ready. The others, please tell yes if you're ready. I'm going to show you in a few seconds. I'll show you the data, and you're supposed to now tell me who is Puneet or not. Okay. So there are a lot more people now who are ready. Great. So I'm going to show you the photos and tell you that this is Puneet. These are photos of Puneet. These are photos of Puneet. So something is happening in your brain, some neurons are being fired, and you are able to now learn that this is Puneet. So the input is photos of Puneet, and the output is yes, this is Puneet. Okay, so that is what is happening. The output is yes, this is Puneet. So when I show you this photo, I ask you to identify Puneet, you're supposed to tell yes, this is Puneet. Okay, right. So you have learned. So I'm going to give you some other photos, and these are photos of not Puneet. These are photos where Puneet is not there. Okay, these are photos where Puneet is not there. Now, question for you. Are you guys ready? Now I have a task for you. Now it is going to be the deal breaker whether you learned or not, whether your neurons are fired correctly or not. So the question for you is this Puneet? You're supposed to answer yes or no. Is this Puneet? Use the chat to answer. Is this Puneet? Yes. Is this Puneet? Fantastic. Yes. This is Puneet. Right. So fantastic. So something happened. You were able to learn that this is Puneet. Okay. Now next question. Let me give you another task and ask you: is this Puneet? Is this Puneet? Is this Puneet? Right? Obviously, the answer is no. This is not Puneet. Right? Now, if you look at it, although it has 2 eyes, 1 nose, mouth, and curly hair, like Puneet, it is not Puneet. Right? In other words, you cannot write if there are 2 eyes, if there are 2 nose, if there is 1 mouth, if that distance is like this. You cannot write that. Right? We cannot write if statements to differentiate with something is Puneet or not. Right? So what do we do, right? How the decision making process happens? How did our brain learn, right? That is something that is interesting, right? So how did our brain learn that something able to easily differentiate between these both? Because a machine generally doesn't know anything, right? So we cannot write if statements to do it. So how does a decision making process happens, right? That is the power of machine learning. Right? So we will dive deep into how do you define the entire model and how do you define the objective, how do we make it. So that is something that we will be seeing later in the session. Okay, interesting. Remember, big thing that we have talked about is if you're defining a problem, how the decision making process is happening is important. And as we clearly told you here, we cannot write if statements to differentiate between something. So we have to understand the decision making process. And in machine learning, we told the decision making process is based on data. So if you're defining a machine learning problem, we have to ensure that we define what is the performance indicator for the problem, what is the task, and what is the data or the experience that the machine is learning from, right? And we tell a machine is learning when the performance of a machine on a particular task improves based on previous data or experience. Okay, so that is when we tell a machine is learning. Any doubts here? Interesting, right? So I've kept it as simple as possible on the definitions, and we've seen that we'll have to now see what are the how does the decision making process. Okay, great. Now that you don't have any doubts, let's go into the next topic, which is the different types of AI and ML. Remember, I told you we're going to talk about what is the AI and ML, then what are the different types of AI and ML problems, and then finally we'll dive into what is the model and how the decision making process happens. Okay, so we're going to talk about machine learning, different types of learning, and the different types of learning is there is something called supervised learning, unsupervised learning, and reinforced learning. Okay, what is supervised learning? Supervised learning, it's a small example of that is you're identifying things, right? It's a very good example of supervised. What happened there? We had photos, that is, we had data with input and output clearly given to you, right? Input was photos of Puneet, output was yes or no, right? And the learning was done from this data. To give you a brief view, this was photo, input, output was yes, this is Puneet. Similarly, you had photo and output was yes, this is Puneet. Photo again as input, output is yes, this is Puneet. Again, similarly, photo and output is yes, this is Puneet. Then we had other photos and saying that output is no, this is not, right? So then what happened is something happened in your brain neurons fired, and what actually happened inside is your brain created some mapping function that will help map the photos of Puneet to yes, this is Puneet, and photos of not Puneet to no, this is not Puneet. This is what happened in your brain, right? Some kind of a mapping function was created which is able to map the photos of Puneet to yes, this is Puneet, photos of not Puneet to no, this is not Puneet, right? That is what is supervised learning. So in supervised learning, what you do is you have data with input and output clearly defined to you. Input in the sense this is input and the output was clearly given in the data set, right? That data is given to you. What you do is you look at the data, you learn from the data. The learning is done by creating a mapping function between the input and the output. Okay, is that clear? So in supervised learning, data with input and output is given. You create a mapping function that will help map the input to the output. Okay, so using the mapping function that you created, given any new input, you will be able to tell that no, this is not Puneet, or yes, this is Puneet, right? So that is what is supervised learning. Okay, I'll repeat again. In supervised learning, you have data with input and output clearly given to you, and what you do is you create a mapping function, that is, you learn by creating a mapping function between the input and the output. Okay, now using the same mapping function, given any new data, given any new input, you will be able to predict whether it is Puneet or not, right? That is what is supervised learning, but data is given to you. Okay, for a lot of people who have worked on ML or who have read a lot about ML, this mapping function in machine learning language, it is called a model, or sometimes you'll also call it as hypothesis. Okay, so in machine learning terms, this mapping function is called a model or hypothesis. So in what is it? It is nothing but some mapping function that if you pass the input to it, you will get the output. Okay, we'll anyway see what is this model and all those things towards the later stages. But I hope this is clear, right? Supervised learning, any application wherein you have input and output clearly given to you, and you are creating a model that will help you map the input to the output, and the model can later be used for prediction. It is what is supervised learning. And majority of the application that you see in the industry falls under supervised learning. Okay, one small application that we saw was identifying Puneet, and that was nothing but face recognition, right? Face recognition is an example of supervised learning, wherein you had photos of Puneet and saying yes, this is Puneet, photos of not Puneet saying no, this is not. Now I have given you an example, I have given you a definition. Now what I want you to do is, I want you to tell me some other real-time examples of supervised learning. Can you please use the chat to tell me a couple of examples of supervised learning? Please use the chat to tell me a couple of examples of supervised learning. You can use the chat to tell me a couple of examples of supervised learning. Anything, you can think of some example and tell me a couple of examples of supervised learning. Face detection app is an example of supervised learning. Great. That is something that we have seen in Puneet's example. So face recognition, face detection are examples of supervised learning. Okay. Anyone else? Anything else? Anything else that you can think of as supervised learning problems? Anything that you can think of as supervised learning problems? You can think of something. You can think of something, some examples. Search engines are not necessarily object recognition is an example of supervised learning. A lot of people are telling fingerprint. Weather forecast is an example of supervised learning. Fantastic. Weather forecast is an example of supervised learning. Great. Email spam is an example of supervised learning. Fantastic. Pest classification is an example of supervised learning. So these are all examples of supervised learning. Now, when you tell fingerprint, there are different aspects to it. If you're telling the biometric scanner that you get everywhere, that is not supervised learning. Whereas if you're seeing that is just embedded systems. But if you're using other recent models in mobile phones, then they also are some examples. But anyways, so text classification, object recognition, weather forecasting, email spam classification are all examples of supervised learning. Okay. Now, for people who haven't given any answer, I have a question for you. What is this? What is this? The only way you can answer this question is, I can hear a lot of mind voice. I can hear a lot of mind voice. People are responding with the same thing here. I'm asking, what is that? What did you type? You type one thing in the chat, right? The only way you can answer that is your mind voice. I can capture your mind voice, and your mind voice tells this is A, right? This is A, right? And what is this? This is B. This is C. How do you know this is A, B, C, and D? In the first standard or in your LKG, UKG, for one whole year, one teacher would have drawn this on the board and told you if the input looks like this, the output is A. And if the input looks like this, the output is B, right? These are text recognition, right? So this is an example of supervised learning, wherein you have some data, the learning process can take time, but you have data and you have input and output clearly defined. The weather prediction today is an example of supervised learning. Yes. And also stock price prediction, house price prediction. So any price predictions are examples of supervised learning. You also in medical, you have cancer detection, any COVID detection, COVID-19 detection. All those things are examples of supervised learning problems. Email spam and classification, we have a demo of that today. We'll anyways be seeing it. Object identification, using satellite images, identifying different places around are all examples of supervised learning. Okay, so I hope this is clear, right? Supervised learning, any example that if you feel that has input and output clearly defined, price predictions, object identifications, mail spam classification. So all those are examples of cancer detection, are all examples of supervised learning. The next type of, what is the next type of machine learning problem that we saw? We saw 3 different types. We saw the first type of supervised learning, right? And we just saw supervised learning. What is the second type of learning? Machine learning problem. The second type of machine learning problem is unsupervised learning. Fantastic, right? Some second is unsupervised learning. Great. So in order to understand unsupervised learning, I would like to play a small game. Find the odd man out here. Find the odd man out here. Which is the odd man out? Okay, Raghav is telling number 4. Or yes, Tota is telling the red color chair. Right, the others are also telling the same answer. The red color chair is the odd man out. Fantastic, great. The others who have not ready, who have not answered, I would also ask you to please join in the answers. The next question: what is the find the odd man out here? Find the odd man out here. Great. So you have the red color apple. Yes, fantastic. The red color apple is the odd man out here. Fantastic. The last question, last game. Find the odd man out here. Find the odd man out here. All right. Find the odd man out here. Okay. So the cat is the odd man out here, right? The cat is the odd man out here. The cat in the last thing is the odd man out here. Fantastic. Great. What you just now did is so unsupervised learning. So what did we do in unsupervised learning? In unsupervised learning, you had data given to you. Okay. And what did you do is there was no labels. Input, output was not defined. You just had some photo, some input, some data. And there was no labels. There was no output given to you. What you did was you looked at the data and you grouped them based on similarities. Right? That is what is unsupervised learning. So what happens in unsupervised learning is you look at the data and you told this all are looking similar. So they all belong together. So this is similar and this does not fit the distribution. Right? This is one distribution. This does not fit the other distribution. Right? So in unsupervised learning, just data is given to you with no input, outputs, nothing. Just data, pure plain data is given to you. And you group the data based on similarities. Right? That is what is unsupervised learning. Okay? You group the data based on similarities. That is what is unsupervised learning. Now, in order to give you more example of unsupervised learning, now everyone in our friend circle will have some friend or some family member. You'll have someone who is either very hyperactive in the always or very quiet always. So, right, one of these conditions you will always have one person who is always whether hyperactive or who is who's always very hyperactive or who is very quiet Now there are times where suddenly when one fine day when the person is very hyperactive, if he suddenly becomes quiet, or the person who is quiet suddenly becomes hyperactive, then you know, okay, something is wrong, something is different, right? How do you know that? How do you know that? Because you know that because you know what is the regular standard behavior. When you know what is the standard behavior, you will be able to understand what is the anomaly there. So anomaly detection is an example of unsupervised learning. So pretty much what you know is, if you know what is a regular distribution, or regular pattern, you will be able to know what fits the distribution and what does not fit the distribution, right? So that is pretty much how the modeling happens in unsupervised, right? You group the data based on similarities. Okay. Now, so anomaly detection, clustering of images are all examples of unsupervised. So I have a question for you. How many of you have been to North Korea? If you have been to North Korea, please tell yes in the chat. Otherwise, please tell no in the chat. If you've been to North Korea, please tell yes. Otherwise, tell no in the chat. Anyone in the class here has been to North Korea? Okay, so far people are telling no, we haven't been to North Korea. What about the others? Okay, anyone who has been to North Korea here? If you have not been to North Korea, please tell no. If you have been to North Korea, please tell yes. Okay, so everyone, none of you have been to North Korea. Fantastic. No one has been to North Korea. Great. Now, okay, so no one has been to North Korea. Now I have a question for you. Because you've never been to North Korea, and let's assume that you do not know their language, you've never seen their currency coins, you do not know anything about their country. Okay, and let's say like in India we have this 1 rupee, 2 rupee coins, right? Like this we have multiple coins, 1 rupee, 2 rupee, 5 rupees. Let's say you have multiple coins. Let's say in North Korea also, they had a lot of coins like this. Okay, let's assume that. I also have never been there. Let's assume that that happens. Okay. Now, let's assume that I have a bag full of currency coins, or a very bag full of currency coins, of North Korean currency coins, and I come and drop it in front of you on the table, and I tell you, group them. Group them. Okay. So, like in other words, like how we have 1 rupee, 2 rupee, I tell you, if you are Indian coins, I tell you group 1 rupee together, group 2 rupee together, group 5 rupees together, 10 rupees together. So like that, I'm telling you, North Korean currency coins are given to you. I'm asking you, group them. How can you group them? Can you segregate them and group them? Yes, yes, okay. Can you do that? Yes, you can do that. Fantastic. I can see a lot of people reacting to this. Yes, you can definitely do it. How can you do it? How can you group them? What all do you think? Yes, you look at pattern, you look at, you might not be able to understand the language. You might not be able to understand what is written. But then you will know, okay, here the pattern looks like this. Here also the pattern is the same. So let me group them together. You can see the size, the thickness, right? The color, different, whatever the similarities are there, you all see that, okay, all these look similar, so they belong to one group. All these are looking similar, so they belong to another group. All these are looking similar. So you're able to group them based on similarities, right? All they've never known their language, you're able to do it. That is what is unsupervised learning. Is that clear? Okay. Unsupervised learning is basically clustering of data based on similarities. Identifying anomalies is an unsupervised learning. Now, and there are a lot of other applications of unsupervised learning, but they are limited, quite few. One fine day, I actually got a call from the bank. I got a call from bank on one day. I assume that a couple of people have also would have got similar calls, but this is something that happened to me. Uh, I got a call from ICICI, that is my bank, and they had asked me, did I make any transaction in the US? Like they called me suddenly and asked, did you make this transaction? It happened in the US. And I was like, no, I didn't make any transaction like that. I'm in India right now. I didn't swipe my card abroad. So, and then immediately they were like, oh, okay, sir, this transaction was flagged. So that is why we had called. Then I was like, okay, what happened here? What actually happened was the bank looked at my regular behavior and they told, okay, Pawan is making transactions. Generally, he makes his transactions in Chennai, in India. And suddenly this transaction is being made in the US. Okay, so it's not fitting the regular distribution, regular pattern. So let me flag it. So anomaly detection there. It's an example of unsupervised learning. And that happened to me. And that happens, if you notice, a lot of times also for people around you, you would have come across something like that. Right? That is an example of unsupervised learning. One of the very commonly used and powerful algorithms of unsupervised learning is recommendation systems. Can you use the chat to tell me where do we use recommendation systems? Where all recommendation systems are available? Where the recommendation systems are being used? Where are recommendation systems being used? You can use the chat to tell me. Where, I mean, I can guarantee that all of you have seen recommendation systems everywhere, in a lot of places. You would have not realized that, but yes, shopping websites like Flipkart, right, Amazon, Snapdeal, then you have a lot more, right, Alibaba. You have all these places where recommendation systems are being used. Like Google, obviously, yes. Google, you when you search for a movie, then you will tell similar movies you come, right. So those are recommendation systems. Right? Anywhere else, recommendation systems are being used. Anywhere else, recommendation systems are being used. Right? All these OTT places like YouTube, Netflix, Amazon, right? They're all like again. Then again, similarly, Instagram. All these places are where you have recommendation systems, and it's a very, very, very powerful recommendation application in the industry. So, what happens in this recommendation system? What happens is they have models that will be running which will group the users based on a similarity, right? Based on similarities, they just group users. Let me show you my screen. I'm going to Flipkart. Okay, and let's say I click on, so these are deals for the day. and these are suggested for you. Okay, and then you have suggested. I'm suggested for you discounts like this. You okay? Like there's a lot of things. This all these recommendations will differ for user to user. I sometimes go and search online for all these places, different offers available on Flipkart and all for my household activities. So that's when I get all these. Let me go one step further and let me just click on this. I'm just clicking on one item here. Okay, I'm just clicking on this item. If you scroll down, frequently bought together, you can ignore it. If you scroll down, you notice you might also be interested in, and they will give you recommendation, right? So this is pretty much the recommendation. Like this, if you notice in Netflix, Prime, and all, if you go, you will also be able to notice other things. Like if you watch a movie, they'll tell you what are other recommended movies. What they do there is they, based on your behavior, they group you to a group of users who exhibit similar behavior, similar preferences. And what they tell is the recommendations will be given based on that, the group that you are being grouped at. Okay, that is unsupervised learning, right? You are being grouped based on your user preference, and sometimes the recommendation works, sometimes the recommendation does not work. But if your grouping is done very well, then you will get relevant recommendations. So if a recommendation is relevant, that means the system is also benefiting a lot, right? So that is an example of unsupervised learning, and it's a very, very powerful example of unsupervised. The final application of the final type of machine learning is the reinforced learning. Okay, so we saw three different types of machine learning: supervised, unsupervised, and reinforced. We saw in supervised examples like price prediction, email spam, not spam, right? Face identification, stock price prediction, object recognition, weather forecasting are all examples of supervised learning. Unsupervised learning, we saw recommendation systems, right? Clustering of data or grouping data based on similarities are all examples of reinforced learning. Sorry, unsupervised learning. The final type of learning is reinforced learning. Now, reinforced learning is like riding to ride a bicycle. What do you do when you ride a bicycle? What you do is you first start to learn to ride a bicycle, right? Learn to ride a bicycle on a plain road, right? On a plain road surface, you start learning to ride a bicycle. Someone is teaching you. Someone, your parent or your uncle or your friend, someone would have told you, brothers. Someone would have told you these are the things that you should do when riding the bicycle. That is, you should hold the handle like this. You should pedal like this. You should sit like this. You would have given a lot of do's and don'ts when riding the bicycle. But all those things, although you have so much amount of data that people give you, until you get on the bicycle and start riding the bicycle, you will not be able to improve your performance, right? So that is an example of reinforcement. What happens at reinforced learning is you have to perform the experiment. Like you have to ride the bicycle, and only then you will be able to improve your performance. So you perform your experiment, collect data, and then you improve your performance. That is an example of reinforced learning. Okay, so in reinforced learning, what do? You perform the experiment, collect data, and then you improve your performance. Right now, very important thing is how the data is collected is important. That is, you cannot learn to ride a bicycle on just a plain road, very nice road, and you cannot assume that you have learned to ride a bicycle properly. Right? You have to practice on all different types of surfaces. Sometimes muddy roads, sometimes potholes, sometimes small stones. You should be able to practice in all those places, so you are very familiar. You are be able to ride it, right? That is what is reinforced learning. You have to perform the experiment in different environments, collect the data, and then you are improving. No amount of existing data will help you improve your performance. Only when you perform the task, collect data, you can improve your performance, right? Right? Yeah, people, you would have watched cricket, right? If Virat Kohli is going to play this shot, even no matter if he reads an entire encyclopedia of instructions, he will not be able to perform well until he goes on the nets, practice, and finally in the match day he'll be able to. Right? That is what is reinforced learning. A lot of interesting applications of reinforced learning. People who have followed news of late is this NASA Mars rover landing. You should, if you are someone who has not seen it, you should go and search for it. The NASA Mars rover landing that happened in the last week is a classic example of reinforced learning. You should please go online and check that out. And there are a lot of self-driving cars, Tesla, Zoom. You have all these different players in the market who are right now investing on self-driving cars, right? So yes, the Perseverance rover is what I was talking about, right? The Perseverance rover that happened the last week is an example of supervised learning. That is your NASA Mars rover. Then you have the NASA SpaceX that again happened recently, right? A lot of going up and coming down, right? Going up and coming down, all the landing, all those things are reinforced learning. You can also watch videos on Boston Dynamics, right? All these are examples of reinforced learning, and these are advanced robotics. Now, for people who are looking, okay, there is one person who messaged me, dude, those are Elon Musk, bro. We cannot do anything in reinforced learning. Those are Elon Musk topics. So for people who are looking at that, we have a very interesting application of reinforced learning in IIT itself, IIT Research Park. So if you get a chance to visit IIT Research Park, you should go to the incubation center. And there are a lot of healthcare companies, and one of the company is working on a dynamic treatment program. So what happens is it's personalized medicines for diabetic patients. I mean, you can read a lot online. There are a lot of hospitals are also implementing dynamic treatment for cancer treatments, for all the different dialysis, kidney, and all those different diseases. Each individual is given a specialized treatment. There's one healthcare company here in India, in Chennai, which is currently working on creating dynamic treatment for diabetic patients. So again, that is reinforced learning. Dynamic treatment is continuously you monitor the patient and continuously alter the dosage so that the patient gets better. Right? That is a very powerful application. It's happening in India. It's not Elon Musk level. It's happening in India currently here, right? And a lot of chatbots, a lot of examples of reinforced learning. Okay. Now I've given you a lot of interesting applications, right? I'm sure that it would have blown your mind saying what are the different types of machine learning problems. What we will do is this time for quiz. I've given you a lot of information. Now what we'll do is we'll quickly answer a few questions. I have a poll for you. The poll is to understand. The poll is just understand whether you have understood the different types of machine learning. Quickly, 2 minutes, 5 minutes time I'm going to give you. You can please take part in the poll. There are only 6 questions, and you just have to select whether it is supervised, unsupervised, or reinforced. Very simple. Choose the best answer. There are 6 questions: supervised, unsupervised, reinforced. You just have to select the correct answer. You can select whatever you feel is right. Anyways, we will discuss it. You can please choose the best answer. This is a revision of whatever we have seen. You can choose the best answer. Yeah, quickly fill it up. There are a few people who have filled it already. The others who haven't filled it, please fill it up. We'll anyways discuss this. There are 25% of the people have answered it. The remaining, please quickly fill these answers. Even if it is right or wrong, it's fine. We will anyways be discussing the answers. So quickly, please answer the questions. Give it a try. You can give it a try. Don't worry whether you're getting it right or wrong. We'll anyways discuss the answers. Yeah, don't worry whether you're right or wrong. We'll anyways discuss the answers. Great. 50% of people have finished it. The remaining 50%, quickly, fast. Last 2 more minutes. Quickly answer the question. Need not worry whether you're right or wrong. We'll discuss the question answers. Quickly, please fill it up. Come on, last 1 more minute. Last 1 more minute. Okay, 45 seconds. Quickly fill it up. Great, 60% of people have filled it. The remaining 40%, come on, fast. Very simple, 6 answers. You just have to select one of the options. 6 questions. Supervised, unsupervised, or reinforced. Select whatever is the best answer that you know. We'll anyways be discussing it. Okay, last 15 seconds. I'll end the poll. People have not finished it. You can please quickly try attempting it. Try attempting it. We'll anyways discuss the answers. Okay, so I'm ending the poll here, sharing the results. So if you look at the answers, the first question, mail spam classification. Everyone, 80% of people have told it right. So I'm very happy about that. It is supervised learning. Mail spam classification is supervised learning. Great, great job. The second question is slightly tricky. So around 70% of it got it wrong. Or 25% of people got it right. All the 5 people who got it right. Kudos to you guys. Google Photos face clustering is actually an example of unsupervised learning. What happens in Google Photos is Google actually takes, if you go, there's in Google Photos album, what it does is it groups all the photos which has similar face. It will not label it. It will not give it as this is Pawan, this is this person, this is this person. It will not give that. It will just tell in all these photos, this face looks similar, so I am putting it together, right? That is clustering. And because it is not labeling it, it is just grouping them together. It is unsupervised learning. Okay. The next, so that is the answer for it. The next question is stock price, house price prediction. Yeah, stock price prediction. Again, people have got it right. Majority of you got it right. I'm very happy about that. It is supervised learning. Any price prediction is supervised learning. House price prediction again is a supervised learning problem. A Netflix movie recommendation. I'm very happy. Majority of you got it right, but then half of you have still got it wrong. It's fine. It is unsupervised learning. Okay, wherein the grouping of users is done based on similarities, and then you have recommendations. Finally, I am very, very pleased to see that 95% of you got it right, that face recognition is supervised learning. That's a great thing. Face recognition is a supervised learning. Great. So everyone, there's an idea about what is machine learning, what are different types of machine learning. Now I have a question for you. Let's say you look at this data. How do you represent this data? What is the best way to represent this data? What is the best way to represent this data? Come on, it's a very simple answer. What is the best way to represent this data? Yeah, it's a graphical data. What is the best way to represent? What is the best way we can use to represent the entire data? Yes, we can give it a try for the others who haven't answered. People are answering privately. For the others who haven't answered, you can give it a try. What is the best way to represent this data? Very simple answer. I mean, when I tell the answer, you will laugh at yourself. For people who haven't answered it, what is the best way to represent this data? The best way to represent this data is a line. Can you all agree with me? Can you all agree with me? Line of best fit. Yes, dividing it using a line of best fit. Fantastic. Is that clear? Everyone agree with me? If yes, please tell yes. Okay, a line of best fit is what you can represent this line data with. What is the equation of a line? 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 You can use the chat. The equation of a line is y is equal to mx plus c, right? Mx plus c. Mx plus c. Fantastic. Y is equal to mx plus c. That is the equation of a line. Correct? Now, this is nothing but model. This is nothing but the mapping function. This is now model. So what you do is you look at the data, you come up with some equation that looks like this, and this equation is the model which will help us map the input to the output. Okay, it's as simple as that. So you need to find the best values of m and c to find the values. So for different values of m and c, the line will change. If you notice, for different values of m and c, the line directions will change. The slope and the intercept will change. So what we need to do is find the best line that will give us, I'm just going to call this line as f of x. There's some function of x, and the x dot as actual y. So the f of x, let's say, is predicted value from the model. F of x is predicted value, and y is the actual value. Okay. Now, ideally, f of x should, the predicted value and actual value should be same, right? So if f of x and f of predicted value and actual value is same, that is, the line will line will set properly on the data. That means what will be the error? Error is the difference between actual and predicted, so error can be 0. Ideally, the error will be 0. But what happens is if you get the value of MNC is wrong, if you don't find the best value of MNC, then you might get a line that looks like this, wherein there is error at each individual data points. So what you will do is you will try to minimize the error between the actual value and the predicted value. How will you minimize the error? By finding the best values of MNC. You'll find the best values of MNC to minimize the error. And there are a lot of algorithms to find the best value of MNC, and that is something that we'll be seeing in the machine learning topic. But the objective, this is the main machine learning objective. The objective is to minimize error. The model is nothing but an equation that looks like this: y is equal to mx plus c. Right? It's as simple as that. Anyway, there are slightly more complex equations also, which we will be seeing when your journey into ML starts with us. We'll be looking at that. Right? So far we have seen in the last 1 hour, we have seen all these concepts. What is AI and ML? What are the different types of AI and ML? You've seen a very small model, and we've also seen an objective that is to minimize error. Right? The next part is an interesting part. Quickly we'll run it, and that is your program demonstration. I'm just going to show you a small demo. This is the program that I've written, and this is the program that anyways you will also be writing if you're joining the course that we conduct at Lemma Labs. You will also be anyways writing a similar program. You will understand. We'll write it in Python, so you will understand how to write this program and all those details. You'll understand this in detail. The nitty-gritty is on the math aspect of it, how to write the program. But just to give you an idea, currently you're running this program on Google Colab. Google Colab is a free tool offered by Google in which you can have a lot of memory and a lot of RAM. So it's like our systems, right? Our laptops are not very high power, not very high performance systems. But for machine learning, sometimes if your laptops are low configured laptops, for us to run high configured programs, heavy programs, we can use Google Colab. So what I'm doing here is I'm just writing this program in Google Colab, connecting into Google virtual machine. Google has a virtual machine, which will give us a GPU high configured system. So if you look at this, I'm just zooming in for you. Google has given me around 13 GB RAM to run the program. For this program alone, there's 13 GB RAM. My laptop actually has only 4 GB RAM. Right? This has given me 13 GB RAM. So that is the power of Google Colab. So we are going to use Google Colab to make prediction. Okay. So in this program, what is this program about? Is there's a picture, there's an image here, and when I run this program, it will tell me what is that image. Okay. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to open Paint. The image size is going to be 28 cross 28. That's a very small image, just for configuration purposes. I'm just going to zoom my son. Yeah. So I'm erasing whatever is here. And let me write one number. Let me write 0. Okay. I'm writing 0. I'm saving this image. Okay. And let me open this folder. Yeah. So this image is here. This image is here. And I'm going to upload this because the program is currently running on Google. I'm uploading this to Google Colab. So I've just written 0, saved it, it is here. I'm going to upload it to Google Colab. So now the image that is there in the drive will change. It will get updated to the image that I drew right now. Right? Let me just run it, refresh it once. So see if the image is updated. Okay, the image is updated. Fantastic. Now let me go to this program and I'm going to I'm running the predicted value. The training part and all is done already. The model and all those things are being specified here. The objective function, all those things are specified here. I'm running the model. Let me run it once. If you notice, it tells that the model has predicted, the model predicts that the image is 0 with 96% confidence. Okay. Let me try one more use case. I'll just delete this and let me write 1 on it. Let me write 1 on it. I'm using my pen here and I'm writing 1 here, saving it, and in front of you just update. So the image has changed here. So whatever image I've used here is here, right? So now I'm going to take this and put it into the Google Drive, update into Google Drive. Okay, so it's updating. So image will change here. Yeah, the image is updated. Let me just rerun this. Yeah, it looks like the image is not updated. Okay, so the image is updated now, so it should work here. If you notice, the model is predicting the image is 1 with a lower confidence, very low confidence, but then the model is still being able to predict. Let me one last time, let me show it for you. Let me do another image. So I'm just keeping this image here, so everything is on the same page. I'm going to delete this and let me write 2. Okay, let me write 2. Okay, I made a mistake. Let me erase it again. Let me write 2. Okay, I'm saving it and I'm uploading it to Google Drive. Let it get updated. And I'm running this program. It's telling the model is predicting that image is 2 with 100% confidence, right? So this is pretty much what is so here what we are doing here is given an image, we are passing it to the model and you are making a prediction. So this is a very interesting application, which is a standard application that a lot of people tested, and we are writing all these programs in Python. Okay, we'll anyways be in the class, we'll anyways be diving deeper into it and understanding the nitty-gritties on how to write the program, all the math behind it. So you will learn concepts like differentiation, the ones that you learn in college, right? For all those people are wondering, oh, what am I learning in college mathematics? Why am I learning differentiation? Why am I learning matrices? You'll actually be you'll apply all those concepts here in machine learning. Okay, so we'll anyways be diving deep into that also. The next demo that I would like to show you is a demo on email spam classification. So what I'll do is I'm just running this program again. This is the program that you will also be typing in the class. It's a demo. It's a program where if you copy and paste an email from your Google or any email, it will be able to classify whether it is mail spam or not spam. So for this, Google has given me 26 GB RAM. Can you imagine 26 GB RAM Google has given me to run this program? Okay. So here, what I'm going to do is it's asking me for an input. So let me open my email. I'm going to open my email. So this is my personal email. Let me go to spam folder. Let me go to spam folder. Let me open the first spam email, copying it. Right. I just copied the email. Go here and paste the email. Now when I press enter, it is able to tell that the email is spam. Right? Can you see the email is spam? Okay. So now let me try for another email. Let me go to my inbox. Let me open some email and let me just copy this email and let me see if it's being able to predict. So let me put this input here. I'm pasting it and pressing enter. It is processing it and telling the email is not spam. Right? So this is again a very powerful application of machine learning, wherein you have data, you load the data from your this one, and you run all these programs on the Google virtual machine. Right? We'll be seeing more in detail about this in the course on the nitty-gritty, the mathematics behind all these aspects. Right? All these, is it interesting? Are you guys interested about all these? Like, is it something that you're interested to learn more, read more about it? If yes, you can use the chat to tell me. You can also answer this poll quickly. Take this poll, so it's also helpful. Give me an understanding about what are your interests, right? Are you guys excited to learn more about this? Hear more about this program? right? I'll just take a few minutes time if you're interested and quickly walk you through how how do you get started in this journey. So far I've given you basics. I've shown you some exciting applications. So what we'll do next is we'll go further and we will see how can you get started. If you would like to get started, how can you get started, and how can you get started with us? How can we help you to get your journey into machine learning? And that is something that we will see now. Okay, so looks like all of you are very interested. Great. So we'll so because a lot of people are showing interest, I'll just walk you through it. Lemma Labs as a program has a very detailed program, which is a 13-week program that is around 78 hours of classes, and then additional project mentorship and all. We have developed a very elaborate curriculum in machine learning, but developed in partnership with one of the leading institutions in the world when it comes to AI and ML called Hyperverse. What we do in the course is we have instructors, we have trainers, that is trainers like me and my other colleagues who are top quality trainers who have trained a lot of students, are going to be engaging with you and teaching you all these things from the very basics. And as you already know, we are a company incubator IIT MRP, and we also in the course will be solving around 15 plus real-time problems, like all these a lot of data set, like you saw, right? Email spam classification. We'll also be building a movie recommendation system. So a lot of interesting problems we'll be doing in the course. The course will be conducted in a way that you have online, because of COVID currently, you have online classes happening, and then simultaneously all these classes are recorded and given access. You are given access to our e-learning portal, wherein frequent quizzes, frequent projects, frequent all the recordings or all those resources are made available even after the completion of program. So you can go ahead and register for it. The classes will happen online. The recordings are available in the e-learning portal for you to refer. Projects will be given there. Assessments will happen. All the engagement that you happen with the trainer will be happening there. But we have a very highly engaging session that are planned. For all those people who are looking at, okay, I've never worked on AI and ML, and how do I get started? We will teach you from the very basics, from the fundamentals of Python, from the fundamentals of math, how do you write a Python program, to all the algorithms that we talked about, and you will be building each day, each week, you will be building one new application. We'll also give you a lot of assignments to solve in between weeks. That is, a lot of projects, a lot of data sets to solve. So the more you practice, the better you become at it, right? And our mentors will continuously be in touch with you, so you can ask doubts, you can clarify doubts, and you can do it. In the week 2, you'll be building handwritten the project that I showed you, right? The demo that I showed you, right? If you write some image, it will be able to detect what is an image. And then one more interesting application that you see is also is if you were in the Titanic boat, what is the probability that you would have survived in Titanic? Right, that is something that you will also be seeing. You will also be building a real-time use case scenario wherein if a shopper comes to a website, what is the probability that the person is tending to buy? A lot of interesting applications, a lot of new algorithms you'll be seeing. You'll also be seeing learning how to build mail spam classification using a very familiar topic called NLP, which is a very widely used concept when it comes to text data, right? Working with text data, you'll be learning that. You'll also be working on data sets like breast cancer prediction, given certain parameters, whether that person has a cancer or not. There are a couple of algorithms more in detail, or you go to detailed algorithms of all these things. The math behind it, the fundamentals on differentiation, all those things you'll be looking at. Insurance claim predictions, all these projects you'll be working on. And we'll also be giving you a lot of other projects to do. A lot of assessments will happen in between. That is, assessments in the sense projects will be given to you, and we'll evaluate your performance. Then you'll also be building a very interesting application called movie recommendation. A lot of interesting applications you'll build, and all these things will be done on Google Colab, so that even if you have a very basic laptop, you will still be able to work on it. We will use all the standard libraries and packages. And one very important thing that we do is we just don't use the package alone. We understand the nitty-gritties of what is happening there. So you are in a better position to optimize the performance of algorithm. That is a very important thing that is required for a machine learning development. You need not know any programming language, but then if you know something basics, it's fine. If you know some C or any programming language basic, then you can easily get to it. If you even do not know, if you're a biological student, like me, I was also a biology group student. But if you are someone like that, we can still help you out. We will teach you from the very basics. Uh, the math, the matrices, differentiation, all those things that you learn in college, you will get to apply it here. So even if you're not familiar, even if you got some arrear in math, still we'll be able to teach you what is it and help you understand a lot. As ma'am was pointing out earlier, you can, after the course, if you're someone who is looking at to get to masters abroad into a lot of universities, if you perform well in the course and if you do the project that we give you, you are eligible for a letter of recommendation if you perform well in the course. And it has worked predominantly well for a lot of students who went abroad to US, mainly to US, and a couple of colleges in Europe also have got placed because of the projects that they have done here. So if you, and a lot of, if you're also having interested in pursuing this career, it definitely will be a very big help for you. And you will be in the course, you'll be working on 15 plus real-time projects. But even after the course, you can definitely continuously work, and we will mentor you on it. Lot of, I mean, people who have not come to know about us, we have got amazing feedback. This is an engineering student who told that we will. Uh, I mean, I'm just giving you concept from people. Uh, and this person has told that our courses have been designed from scratch, and there's something that we are very proud. Irrespective of what is your previous background, if you're interested to learn, the course is designed from the very basics that you can solve real, you can get your own confidence that you can solve real world problems. And a lot of people are like, huh, okay, you're offering this course. Uh, and a lot of people are also telling, like the way we teach, like our engagement. So people who have attended our programs, you know, the way the mentor student relationship is very cool. They're all young guys. We treat everyone with the same way. It's not, we ensure that you have fun in the class. We ensure that you have excitement learning. You continuously learn a lot from the course. For all those people who are looking at, okay, there are a lot of Udemy courses out there, a lot of Coursera courses, which are very offer free. There are free courses available, Udemy courses. Our participants have actually tried out all those courses and still told that this is the course that we can offer, because you get personalized attention. Even if you're lagging behind, you get personalized attention. If you are not able to understand math behind it, we understand the math, so you're able to perform better. And what you learn on Udemy or Coursera is only 25% of what is ML, and we teach you end to end on what is ML and all. So that those are aspects that you can also benefit from the course. We start from the very basics, no prerequisites. It is made in such a way that is very easy to follow. And I'm showing you feedback of people who are very old people who have not lost touch with learning, and people are coming back. People are 20 years, 20 plus year experience in the industry, sitting and learning all these things. This person is from a banking sector. He has forgot everything that he learned in engineering, and still he was able to follow it. That is what I'm trying to say. Advantage for engineering students is, because you're currently in engineering, you will be in a very better place. You can learn a lot from the course, and in the end of the course, all of you can confidently tell that you can solve your machine learning problem on your own. And so this is something that we are doing. We have learners from top companies and colleges across India, and something that we're very proud of is we have always got very good feedback on the way we teach, the resources provided, and the doubt clearance and mentorship also.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Pavan. On behalf of the management of Satyabama Institute of Science and Technology and Satyabama IAS student branch, we express our profound and most sincere gratitude to you for giving excellent coverage to getting started with the artificial intelligence and machine learning. The session has been quite educative and very interactive. Thank you, Mr. Pavan.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Dear participants, thank you all for your had been an enthusiastic for your enthusiastic participation in this session. Thank you all. As Sir has given the feedback for their company oriented thing, you can fill that. Apart from that, do fill the attendance and feedback that is available, feedback form that is available in the chat box. So based on that, your certificates will be issued to your email ID. Yeah. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yes,
Ma'am, one small request
yes,
for
sir.
all those people who haven't filled it. If you can, I'll send you a link to you. Can you circulate
Yeah,
it to
yeah.
the participants?
Yeah, yes, sir.
Okay.
You
Thank
can
you.
send it to my WhatsApp. Thank you, sir.